Hey folks, my name is Treu. I'm the owner of Bam Bam's Barbecue here in Orem, Utah. Today I'm here with ThermoWorks. We're going to do a little bit of a chicken thigh training. So when I teach my classes, I like to show people a few different ways to do chicken thighs. You always have guys that want to compete, so they want them fancy. And you've got guys that want to impress their neighbors. And then you have guys that just want to throw some cheap, quick meat on, like if the mother-in-law comes over, you don't want to do any prep work. So I'm going to show you 3 different ways to do a chicken thigh. So when you get a skin-on chicken thigh, this is skin-on, bone-in chicken thigh. They look kind of ugly. So there's a few simple things that we can do to make these look a lot better and to cook a little bit more evenly. If you're somebody that likes to get into competition, you got to fit 6 of these big boys in one of those little clam shells. So obviously we've got to cut some things like the knuckle off, and we got to get some uniformity. So I like to do things the simple way, so I'll show you kind of a quick and easy way to do that. But let's start with the mother-in-law cut, okay? So every chicken thigh looks pretty similar to this. The skin, one of the biggest problems people have with skin is just that it's rubbery, and it's rubbery because it's full of fat. So you can take it off pretty easy, and we can kind of treat that. But at the same time, if you just want good chicken, it does retain moisture, and to just season this up and throw it on the smoker, it'll cook just fine. And so that's kind of how we'll start with this one. So the trick to any poultry is you just want it to kind of cook even. So you can kind of see how it tapers, right? So we definitely want to kind of fold it under itself so it'll cook even. So if you don't want to take any skin off and you just want to season it, at least just kind of fold it like that. Then you'll get an even cook all the way across. You know, if there's that vein or some extra skin right here, that's a really easy thing to cut off, and you can do that. But again, sometimes barbecue, you just want it to be quick and simple, and you just want some chicken thighs. Now, with this method of cooking, you're not going to get crispy bite through skin. It's probably just going to have to come off at the end, but that's okay. The chicken's still going to be great. So with something like this, I'm going to just open it up to expose the meat. I'm just going to take a little bit of rub. With chicken, it doesn't take much rub. Just pretty light, okay? Then I'll flip it over and do the other side. And you know, you want good color, so you want good even coverage on the rub. And then when we fold this back under, we don't want to put too many thumbprints in it. We don't want to smear it. So just kind of grab those corners, fold it under, and then if you need to touch up anything, you can, and just throw a little bit on there. And that's it. I call that the mother-in-law cut, right? Unless you like your mother-in-law, then you can do the next one. But this one, this will still cook up really nicely. And really with this, all you need is your heat, your smoke, and one of these bad boys, and you'll never mess it up. So we'll start with that one. I'll kind of show you the difference. Okay, so this next one, we'll just call it the neighborhood show-off cut. We just want it to be a little bit prettier, right? Maybe you're trying to impress a neighbor, show off some skills. So there's a couple things we can do, just very simple, to make it look just a little bit more uniform, a little bit nicer. So what I'll usually do with this is I'll start by just ripping the skin off. Now, there's one side where it'll always kind of connect. Really easy to pull from one, but this other one, I'm just going to take my knife and lightly cut that off. Now, on every chicken thigh, you're going to see a line of thick fat on one side and a little bit more over here. Now, my theory with barbecue is I never want to put anything in the smoker I know I'm not going to eat, right? So with some of these corners that are rubbery and gristly or really thin, I'm just going to cut those off because I don't want to risk somebody biting into it. It'll just be like char. So we'll cut this little edge off, throw it away, and then this side, we don't want to cut away any of the good meat, so we just want to just kind of be light, and we just want to get some of this fat off. Because with chicken, it doesn't cook long enough to render away any of the fat that's on the surface, so we just kind of want to get rid of it. So if you don't mind taking a little bit of time to get rid of that stuff, it's a good idea. So then with this, I'm not going to cut any knuckles, I'm just going to kind of square it off. So I'll straighten out the bone, and then anything that's kind of excess over here, I'm just going to run my knife down it, and that's it. Okay, and then I'll kind of fold it back under. Now I'll take my skin. Now chicken skin is actually really transparent, but when it's solid like this, you just know there's a lot of fat in it. So, in the competition cut, we'll show you some ways to kind of knock that down. But for now, we're not really going to worry about it. So, I'm just going to kind of spread it out on the table. And if there are some really obvious high spots, you can, I'll move that. You can just take your knife and let the knife do the work. No pushing because you'll tear. You want to just let the knife, move back and forth, and that'll kind of cut through the fat. But don't worry about this too much. So all I'm going to do is, again, create a little bit of uniformity and square it off. So, look something like that. Now you always want more skin, or you always want extra skin that will kind of wrap under, because as the heat hits it, that skin's going to tighten up. And so if you cut away too much of the skin, it won't cover the whole thigh, because as it cooks, it's going to kind of creep in and leave the edges of the actual meat exposed. So we'll call this the neighbor cut, but you can definitely see how it's a step up from the last one that we did, right? So a little bit prettier. So same thing with the skin off. It does give you access to the underside of the skin, so we can get seasoning right onto the meat, which helps. Another fun thing with doing it this way is that you can layer your rubs, meaning you can actually put a different rub on top of the skin if you want to do that. But again, it depends on how much you like your neighbors. I don't know you, so we're just going to stick with the same rub, okay? Hope you're not offended. So, kind of like the other one, just kind of keep it light, but keep it even. And that's what we'll call the neighbor chicken thigh. So it's nice and uniform, kind of same thickness throughout. We got rid of some of the gristly fat, so nobody will be biting into that. And that'll actually turn out nice. And I'd say for 80% of the cooking that I do at home, this is about how I do it. Because I still don't want, we all eat with our eyes first, right? So we want things to look nice. And if they look nice, they'll taste better, as weird as that sounds. So when I cook in competition, there's a lot of different ways to do it. Like I said, if I have to work too hard, it becomes too tedious and I lose interest. So I've kind of figured out a simple way to do this that's kind of quick, that will allow me to render fat without scraping skins. And I'll show you what I mean about that. So the first thing I'm going to do, just like the neighbor cut there, is we're going to cut this skin off, and we're going to work with that first. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of spread it out and see what we're working with. Now, just because this skin came off of that thigh doesn't mean that I have to use it on that thigh. There may be a bigger thigh coming up in my package that needs a bigger piece of skin. So generally what I'll do is I'll square these off, set them off to the side, trim up all the thighs, and then pick the best skin for the thigh. So keep that in mind. It's a good little pro tip. Right here we've got some pretty good bumps, and so we want everything to render evenly. So wherever there's those kind of bumps, I'm going to come through and just kind of keep the knife moving and knock some of that fat off. And if you're in a focused mood and you want to just do this to the whole thing, you can, but generally if you're turning in 6 chicken thighs, you want to, put 10 to 12 thighs in your cooker and then pick the 6 best. So when you're doing what I just did with 6 to 12 thighs, it can take some time. So anyway, so I will trim, I'll turn this and we'll knock down one more high spot. So there's one more little high spot here. And I mean, this is just all fat that was under that skin. So that skin kind of stayed intact. So hopefully you can kind of see with the light the difference between those edges and that middle. The middle, it's kind of hard to see through, but you can kind of see that transparency on the top and on the bottom here. And that's what all chicken thighs look like. So we'll call that good. Okay, so kind of same thing with the neighbor cut. You've always got that piece of fat right here. Now with competition, you're generally only gonna get one bite, right? Judges are gonna take one bite. So we wanna be aware of what side we wanna put towards the judge, right? So when we put it in a box, you can kind of feel with your fingers what the thickest, best side is. On this one, it's my right hand, okay? But we're still, just in case some new judge grabs it and spins it around, we still wanna make sure that we get this fat off because like I said before, it's not gonna render, okay? Now, next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna square it off just like I did on the neighbor cut. So you'll see there's this line of fat right here inside of this knuckle. Now that's kind of my guideline on where I'm gonna pop that knuckle and shrink up this chicken thigh so we can fit 6 of them in a styrofoam clamshell. Okay, so I just pop it with one of these, but a lot of guys will use like garden shears. Those work really, really well. But you just wanna make sure that your bone is nice and straight. Get right inside of that bone and just pop and then pull it aside. So, and then now we want to just kind of clean it up. So you can have the most perfectly cooked chicken in the world, but if there's one little bite of that gristly fat when you're competing, you're done. And taste is your heavily, most heavily weighted score. So we want to make sure that all that, if there's any of the veins, cut those out. But you can kind of already see the difference now in mother-in-law, neighbor, competition, right? So now, can I have a string there? Nope. So now we're gonna wrap that up. And like I said, we want a lot of excess skin, so it's got room to kind of shrink as it renders and still have good coverage. So we'll kind of tuck those in. I know some guys that use toothpicks to hold it. Some guys even use food glue. Shoot me. If I've got to do that to compete, I'm not going to compete anymore. So you got to make it fun for yourself. There's lots of different ways to win. Ultimately, it doesn't matter how pretty it is or what rub you use. If it's cooked right and it tastes good, you're going to beat out 80% of the field anyway. So that's what to expect with more of a competition style. So you can kind of see the difference. So if your boss comes over to work, that's a good one to use. And it really isn't that hard. Once you get the hang of it, you can kind of blast through those pretty fast. So with this one though, you want to be a little bit more aware of your seasoning. You just want it to be really even. So usually I'll hold it in my hand, hold it on the side, because we just want it to be really even and not overly done or overly seasoned. Now, what I do a little bit differently is I cook these upside down to start in some butter, covered in foil, but I allow that butter bath to render the fat inside the skin. And then I finish them in the smoke. Generally with barbecue, the smoke you want to hit meat with smoke in the beginning. The first couple hours, while it's nice and cold, it'll let smoke in, but after a few hours or with big cuts, smoke's not going to enter the meat anymore. It's just going to kind of build on top. Chicken, fish, anything poultry like this, 15, 20 minutes of smoke is all you need. And you can really do that at any point of the cook because it's such a delicate meat, it's still going to go in even if it's partially cooked. So I've kind of gone backwards where a lot of guys put it on the smoker first like this and then they do a butter bath. I like to do the butter bath first, get some of that skin rendered, re-season it, put it in the high heat, And now that fat's gone, it'll kind of crisp up the skin and give you a bite through skin. So, you know, this works great with like a muffin pan too. So you can kind of see the difference between the 3 different ways of doing it. And I mean, none of them are really that much work. So this we didn't really do anything to, and it doesn't look much different than that. The thing with this guy though is you know that you're not going to bite into any fat. We've kind of squared off the skin, knocked down a couple little high spots, and it's easy. This right here is a little bit more tedious, but I mean, when that's done and you put a nice sheen of sauce over it, it's going to look beautiful. So it really just depends on the guest. So as far as temperatures go with chicken, generally with the big meats, I'm one of the guys that's from the low and slow school, like 225. But with ribs and chicken, I like a little hotter because it helps kind of render the fat down, give it some color, and give it some kind of some texture to the skin. So I like cooking these at 275. And you can even cook them up to 300 if you want. Just kind of depends on the smoker, because if you cook them that hot, we still want some smoke, right? So if you're on a pellet smoker, you might want to start them a little bit lower for the first 20 minutes just to get some of that smoldering pellet smoke, you know, say 200 degrees, but then crank it. But with a Old Hickory or Southern Pride, I've got plenty of smoke, and then we'll cook these at 275. So we just kind of cooked the simple way. We didn't do any sort of butter bath. We just kind of threw them in the smoke at 275, let them go. So I'm looking for between 165 and 175, where we left the fat and the skin. I feel like they can handle a little bit more heat, you know, before they're finished. So I'm okay letting them go a little bit higher to get a crispier skin. So I'd say 175 is the sweet spot with the dark meat, if you leave the fat in the skin or you use a butter bath. So most of these are right about there. So just like any meat, when it's in the heat for a while, we want to let it rest, let those juices kind of redistribute. So with chicken, you don't need much time. Maybe just 10 minutes if you're indoors, just sitting on the counter. If you want to rest them a little longer, you can. Maybe just tent them with some foil. Don't seal them up because they'll keep cooking. Just kind of tent some foil over it. I like sauce on chicken, so I'll probably put a couple different sauces that we have here in the restaurant on them just to kind of give them a little extra layer of flavor and just serve them up. So we're just going to sauce these kind of simple, but if you want to kind of get the sheen like you would in a competition, whatever sauce that you want to use, throw it in the pot, get it hot, throw some butter in there to kind of lighten it up, give it kind of a shine. And then the thing that I like to do the best is just take one of those pigtail flippers or even some tongs, keep your fingers off it and dunk it and just kind of let it drip off, so it's just got nice even coverage, and it'll kind of give it a shine, especially when you can kind of see through and see those little flecks of pepper and salt and seasoning. Just kind of gives it some depth. But you know, when we're cooking at home, we just want good chicken. So we're just going to kind of do it the easy way. And we'll just kind of sauce over these. The heat will, if you do them while they're hot, the heat will kind of thin the sauce out for you. So we'll do a couple different flavors here. And if you want to set the sauce, you can always put them back in the heat for just a minute. The sauce will cool the chicken off just enough to where if you put them in for 5 or 10 minutes, it won't overcook the chicken, but it will help some of this sauce thin out, spread over the chicken, and set a little bit. So we'll set these for a minute. All right, so we got the finished product here. We just kind of kept it simple. We've got the mother-in-law and we've got the competition one right here. So you definitely see a difference. They're both pretty, they both taste great. Next Saturday, the 26th, I'll be over at ThermoWorks teaching this and a whole lot of other things. We'll talk about brisket, we'll talk about pork, ribs, chicken, turkey, really whatever you want to talk about. It'll be about a 4 to 5 hour class. So if you want to learn this and a whole lot more, call Bam Bams, grab your spot. There's a few seats left, and hopefully we'll see you next Saturday.